Nowadays, we observe the change rapidly happening which we cannot stop. So, in order to address this kind of phenomenon, teachers need to prepare themselves. The best key to this is pedagogy, where teachers need to make corresponding changes in the emphasis and pedagogy in their teaching to achieve the objectives of both teachers and learners.
Have a nice day, everyone. My report will focus on pedagogical implications and considerations that will be helpful for teaching literature to improve the capacity of learners to understand, learn from, and above all, enjoy literary works. Lung 1986 said that teaching of literature can be a dull, uninteresting, and boring thing to do unless there is a reaction from the learners, be it positive or negative, adding that even a negative response can stir life and learning in the classroom where learners get the feel of challenging the teacher's often predictable responses. In an earlier discourse, Rosenblatt 1985 underscored that the reading of a particular literary work cannot but be the unique experience of a particular reader with a unique range of emotions over a particular text under a unique reading situation. She labels this as a transaction with a literary text. Rosenblatt also believes that learners nurture and develop continuous love, enjoyment, and appreciation of literary texts. The question is, what are the pedagogical implications for teaching literature? The answer to this is to know what children's literature is. According to Othen 2013, children's literature is the product of a figment of imagination in the writer's mind, born out of how one interacts with children and how the writer makes a construct of childhood. The main genres include the following. First is picture books. It appeals to the sense of sight to provide a delightful visual experience to the reader through pictures to tell a story. It's commonly used to describe a book. The content shows a picture to tell a story alone. It's commonly have 30 pages. Some examples of this is The Lion and the Mouse, A Day, A Dog, Harold and the Purple Crayon, The Little House, and Goodnight Moon. Next is storybooks. It tells a story accompanied by pictures and illustrations where there is more text than pictures. It's containing a collection of stories. Examples of this: Good Night, Good Dog, The Gruffalo, The Ugly Duckling, and The Jungle Book. Next is traditional literature. Refers to literature or books that are passed from one generation to another, like folklore, fables, legends, folktales, and myths. This is commonly called alamat in our country. Examples of this: Alamat ng Saging, Ang Pusa at Daga, The White Elephants, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and King Arthur. Next is historical fiction. Pertains to literary texts where some facts in the story can be traced to real historical events involving some real historical individuals, allowing children to take a trip back in time. The content was a product of an author's imagination. Creative and inventive story takes place in the past. Examples of this is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Memoirs of Giza, The Accords. Next is modern fantasy. Refers to tales born out of the writer's imagination where fantastic elements such as talking animals and magical beings like witches and strange creatures are woven in the story. It helps us to enhance our communication and thinking by increasing our frame of reference and understanding, creating interest and joy, harrowing the intellect to act in our emotions. Some examples of this:
are The Wind in the Willows, Charlotte's Web, Pinocchio, The Borrowers, Mary Poppins, Alice Adventures in Wonderlands, The Chocolate Touch, Harry Potter, and The King of Shadows. Next is realistic fiction. Refers to made-up stories but which can be true in real life. Children play as the main characters, thereby allowing children to feel or go through an experience as if it were true. That is realistic fiction. But it's also still an imaginations of an authors about in real life situation. Some examples of this is The Fault in Our Story, 13 Reasons Why, The Last Cherry Blossom. Next is non-fiction or informational books. Represent young readers' information to help them develop more knowledge about the world around them. They dwell on any topic or information about real life that would interest. Some examples of this: history, autobiographies, travel guides, academic texts, philosophy, and insights, biographies, memoirs, travelogues, and journals. Next is biography. Pertains to the true life story about another person's like heroes or ordinary people's lives may serve as an inspiration for children to emulate and follow. Like for example, the life of Jose Rizal, the life of Emilio Aguinaldo, which sit as an example about their heroine deeds in us. Like were the story of President Obama's life, Alexander Hamilton, Steve Jobs. Next is children's poetry. Pertains to artistic literature that seeks to bring out the creativity in children by enabling them to express their emotions and stir their imaginations through verses and interplay of rhyme, rhythm, and another literary expressions like folk poetry, poetry written originally, those were appropriate for young people, poems taken from the prose and intentionally for young people. Examples: Jabberwocky, The Owl and the Pussycat, Chocolate Cake, and Little Red Riding Hood. That are some examples of children's poetry. And the last is children's drama. It's a genre of literature where the elements of a story are presented through dialogue and action and makes use of costumes, props, lighting, music, and sounds. This literary presentation developed in children acting abilities, public speaking skills, creative thinking, and social skills, among others. This children's drama is one of the most creative way because it involves enacting through watching the presentation.
What is the purpose of literature? It can be to enthuse, motivate, and instruct. It also opens an opportunities to the learners to see new horizons and have an abundance of fun and delight in reading and learning literature. What makes children's literature apart from adult literature?
Children's literature is a class on its own, with its own brand of writing style and characteristics that set it apart from adult literature. Children's literature is simple, naive, and sophisticated, natural, and uncomplicated.
After all the discussion, have you ever asked if what is pedagogy?
Phil cited out that pedagogy is all about the methods a teacher uses to achieve one's objectives to ensure that students are engaged in age-appropriate learning activities vis-a-vis or face-to-face the teacher's expertise in using different methods. Larcher point out several literature-based teaching strategies using authors' original works to serve as the heart of experiences to help children develop literacy.
These general strategies are: first, scaffold instruction.
Scaffold instruction, students are given a lot of structures at the beginning, and these structures are removed little by little until the students are capable of doing it themselves. Next is modeling. While reading or discussing a literary works, the teacher thinks out loud his thoughts related to the text. Next is cooperative learning. Students work together in small groups and engage in tasks that involve risk and higher level thinking skills instead of the conventional question answer teaching strategy. Next is independent reading. This is done to promote reading, writing, and thinking skills, which are the goals of education. Lastly, literary response. Students act in response to what they read.
In addition, there are strategies that teach students text comprehension like
Monitoring comprehension, metacognition, or having control over the reading before, during, and after reading, graphic and semantic organizer, answering questions and generating questions, recognizing story structure, and summarizing.
whatever the pedagogy or strategies, it is best to hit. However, the advice of our national artist, Chanel Hussey,
First, don't make literature difficult. Do not torture your students with too much mind-bending tests. Make literature interesting, enjoyable.
hence, if literature, according to Roosevelt 1978,
Is to be experienced as a transactional process, the interaction between the teacher and the learners should be a meaningful collaboration towards eliciting response to the text and guiding the learners to a personal discovery, nurturing in them the continuous love, enjoyment, and appreciation of literary text.
and that would be all. I hope you learn a lot of pedagogy or strategies so that your children appreciate literature. Goodbye everyone and may God bless us all. Thank you.